Burnt umber is a staple color on many artists' palettes, including mine. You might have noticed, however, that in areas where you've used large concentrations of burnt umber, that those areas dry, sort of matte and dull. This is known as sinking in, and one of the reasons why burnt umber sinks in more than other colors is because it uses the pigment PBr7, which is a clay-based pigment which is very absorbent. So today I'm going to mix different colors, for example, burnt sienna and ivory black, and Venetian red and French ultramarine, to try to mimic burnt umber without having the same sinking in problem. So what I'm going to do is use these two charts and fill them in, starting with burnt umber and then the different color combinations, to see how the different combinations compare color-wise with burnt umber, but also whether or not they sink in. And I'm gonna do the same combinations on both an oil-primed linen canvas and an acrylic-primed cotton canvas. So this is the burnt umber. Next up is burnt sienna and ivory black. So this is pigments PR101 and PBK9. And now Venetian red and ivory black. Venetian red is also PR101, except it's a more opaque version of that pigment. Here we have burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. So that's PB29 for the pigment code of ultramarine. And now Venetian red and ultramarine. You're going to notice that the Venetian red combinations are more opaque than the burnt sienna combinations. Here is burnt sienna and Russian blue. Prussian blue's pigment code is PB27. And now Venetian red and Prussian blue. Now it's cadmium red deep and Prussian blue, and cadmium red deep's pigment code is PR108. And now cadmium red deep and ultramarine. So here are the two different graphs, still wet. I'm gonna wait a few days and then revisit them and hold them into the light so we can see if there's any sinking in with the other color combinations. So here are the painting samples 5 days later. You can see that they're all dry. If I turn them towards the light, the burnt umber is obviously the most flat or matte. The ivory black combinations are the shiniest, and then the other combinations are somewhere in between. So I don't know about you, but I think that the Venetian red and ultramarine blue mix is the most accurate, and obviously the cadmium red deep blends are the least like burnt umber. I just wanted to throw in the cadmium red deep because it's a higher chroma red, but they ended up being a little too maroon. It's still a pretty color, but it doesn't mimic the burnt umber quite as well. And here is the acrylic primed cotton canvas. So you can see it's a little shinier than the linen, just because there's a difference in the texture or the weave of the canvas. So this is catching more light because there's more peaks and valleys than the linen canvas, just in the texture. The linen, I'd say the linen, if I turn this, it's just less shiny overall than the cotton canvas. And also here, I believe that the Venetian red and ultramarine blue is most like the burnt umber. Let me see if I can pull it into the shadow a little bit. Yeah. It's a little better. So hopefully this was helpful, giving you an idea of what paints to mix if you want an alternative to burnt umber. You can check out the description of this video if you'd like to make any purchases. Just one note, Venetian Red. It's called Venetian Red by Winsor & Newton, but you might find it under the name of Mars Red from other manufacturers.